Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to go over how you can automate your Upwork lead generation as well with AI automations, just spending a few hours a day that hopefully gets you a lot more qualified leads, and also use Upwork as a great lead generation source now. I'll also show you how we are doing it and how you can do the same, but also things to look out for and the tools that we use. But in general, it's quite simple to do. And even if you don't know how to code, I will show you also the code as well. So you can copy, paste, do the same thing as us. Of course, make sure you fine tune it for your own needs. Now, let us proceed. So a bit of background about me. So I've been on Upwork for the last 7 years. And I think like maybe on the last 4 or 5 months, I've been using AI to really help out with the lead generation to make it more consistent. Fast forward, I've been getting 5 to 8 leads a week on Upwork and 40K in sales right now in Japan. So I'm based in Japan. Also for me, the reason why I've been doing Upwork is that I already have a profile and I have lots of feedback and reviews. So it was very easy to, in a way, get top rated faster and get more credibility. And so it was easier to get some traction as well. If you're doing the same thing, then of course, I would really highly advise you to get something going there first, and then you add your AI automation. Now, onto the automation, right? So ZeroWork, Make.com, Airtable, and Google Sheets. Those are the tools that we use to actually do the full system. Now, how does it actually work? ZeroWork is actually, it's an RPA tool. It mimics any action that you do in the browser. So just like clicking, adding data, anything that you do in the browser. Now, it will mimic how you scroll and search for jobs in your Upwork job feed, right? So finding, fetching, filtering, and even pre-qualifying your jobs on 2 levels. I will show you later. Now, Make.com is a popular automation tool. It's a platform that you can make smaller scenarios with different modules that will actually do certain actions, and in a way use APIs to have your tools talk to each other as well. So it's a great tool. Make.com, you can use it for free. ZeroWork, it's a paid tool. Around $15. I think, let me check. Yeah, 20 or 15, 20. It's really a great tool. They have good support. They have a robust system. And anyway, it's very user intuitive as well. That's why I would recommend them as well. There are other tools as well that you can use that are very similar and do the same thing, but sometimes they are buggy. So that's something that you want to avoid. Now, what was it actually that we were doing before? So a lot of manual searches. Either me or my VA went through a lot of the jobs every day, and we really searched for any jobs that we could apply to. So every day it was, I think, 4 hours of just finding jobs on Upwork. We have 3 lead generation sources. So one of them is Upwork. And in this case, it works well if you're very consistent. So 4 hours a day is a lot of time to really search for jobs. So right now with the AI automation, we cut that down to 1 hour, I think 1 hour maximum actually. So saving us a lot of time as well. And there's really no need for the VA to be involved because the AI is actually doing everything as well in the automations. Now, the third part as well is that Airtable. Airtable helps me to store all the data. So the storage happens actually on 2 levels. The first one is where we store all the data that we need to apply to, or at least review. And then the second storage happens on Google Sheets level, Google Sheets, where we finally save or copy over all the jobs that we have applied to. And that's really for a reason to finally at the end of the month, we can go back and check. So then this month, which country has been great for us, which jobs have been great for us, how much feedback did we get? Did we get people on sales calls? How high is the conversion rate and the close rate? So anything to really help us track our metrics and also improve on that. Now let's go through each tool. First thing, ZeroWork. Now ZeroWork is an RPA tool, and an RPA tool just means robotic processing automation. And so it mimics again any action that you do in a browser. So it looks like this, and it might look like there's a lot of steps, but actually it's quite straightforward. I'll show you later as well what it actually does, but eventually you tend to filter out thousands of jobs. Then you go to 200 for the first filtering, then around 120 for the second filtering, and those last 100 to 200 jobs you tend to have them go to the final check, and then you eventually get around 20 jobs, I would say, that are very highly catered to your profile. Now, let me show you how it works, or at least how it looks like. Nope, center. So this is how it looks like. It actually has 4 phases. First one is that you fetch all the jobs. The second one, if you do the first filtering. The third step is you do the second filtering. And the fourth step is that you send over the jobs that are remaining to make.com for the final checking with AI. So now let's go into what you actually need to do. Now let's go into how to make this work. ZeroWork. Now you need to do a few things. First is, of course, have your Upwork account and your jobs ready. So have something that you filter on, right? So you have a list of jobs. Now, then second, variables. Now the variables are on the left side here in ZeroWork. Now you have bad jobs countries. So these are, so this is a variable that you need to fill in with the name and the code of the country that you don't want to get any jobs from. So in this case, these countries would, for example, for us, they tend to have a very low success rate, or they have a very low budget. So we tend to just ignore it so that the AI doesn't spend any credits or time to really evaluating those jobs. Third one is that review scoring and basic filtering conditions and their save basic details. What do I mean? Is here, save basic details. So this is the first filtering. Now, in the first filtering, we do a very simple calculation. So it's math based. So we have a starting score of 2. Any keywords that has been found in the job details, we add a few more points. So in our case, we do SEO and WordPress and e-commerce. So we want to add more points if you find these terms in there. Of course, it's not really complete, but those are the core keywords that we want to target. Now, on the opposite end, if you find certain terms, for example, translator or translation or translate, so we want to just score them as 0. Because if those titles have those keywords in them, it's not a good fit for us. Even though it might be that they need a translation, localization with SEO, if it's really focused on translate, that's not for us. So this is where you need to add your own scoring. And I would suggest just you prompt ChatGPT with some simple questions such as, how do I change this score calculation? Based on my profile, I would like to get more points, for example, web design or web development or anything that you do. And then you will be able to just add the JavaScript here. Now, what else do you need to set up? So you need to add Upwork cookie to the agent. So what this means is that you'll see this ZeroWork as a bot because it uses your browser. And you need to also make sure that it logs into your Upwork account. And you do this by actually going to Upwork, you log in, and you use a Chrome extension called Cookie Editor, and you just export the JSON. So this JSON content will have information about your session, cookies, your login information, and it will in a way help the taskbot login with your account. And you just copy paste it here. So you just paste it here, and then you just make sure that you also run it incognito, because that is the next one. So why run it in incognito is that it's separate from your normal browser and that you won't get flagged that easily. So you have very separate entities running your automations. This is important if you have many of these different taskbots running at the same time. So what's next? Start with a few jobs by using a small repeat cycle 1 and then start repeats model. Okay, so what I mean with this is in the start repeat module here, you start with 1, so that, because what it does is it actually fetches only one time, which means it only clicks this load more jobs 1 time. So you have 10 jobs by default, and then it loads 10 more jobs, so you can have a total of 20 jobs to test with. And that's okay because it's good enough to test with, but you don't need like thousands of jobs when you're still setting up your automation. That's why I want to tell you to really start with 1, and later on you can just go to 111, which is the number I tend to use between 100 and 120. Now, what else? Use your own make.com API. Yes. And so this is the API that you need to send here. sendtomake.com. Let me show you here through the webhook. Now, a webhook is in a way, it's a page where the service is listening to any data that comes in. And so once data comes in, then it will trigger certain actions. And so the actions to trigger will be these, and I'll go over this one as well later on, but you tend to always want to listen for data. So that's why you need to make and have your own webhook URL inside of your Send-to-Make API module. Now, the last thing that you need to set up is then, of course, your email. So use your own email in the send notification modules. So send notification, in case that there is an issue, I will always want to get alerted very soon because I don't tend to look at what automation is doing after I start it. So if there's any big issues, I just send an email to myself and I see it very fast so I can see, okay, like I need to check this out because something has been flagged and it's not really doing even the first step of this automation. Now, that's where you need to also, of course, in your own account, you will need to set up your email and then you can send emails to yourself. And that's all you need to, in a way, set up. So you have your Upwork, you have everything configured for you. Make sure you have also the variable set up and everything tailored to your own needs with the scoring and sending out the data to your other funnels or automations. Now, you can also use a different approach, but if you want to copy me, then do the same thing there. Now, what is it actually that is happening in all these steps, right? So I'm not going to go over each step, but I'm going to go over a few of the most important things. So the first thing is that fetching the work feed. Now, what is happening there? So in the work feed is that it opens the page in the Find Work tab in your account. So you need to have, of course, jobs there, right? Then it goes to this list view and it will start to click on the final button here and load a lot more and more jobs every time. And once it does it for a few times, so like in my case, 111 or 120 times, you will have like 1,200 jobs in that list, right? So once that is done, you do the first phase, and that's really to save all that data into the data tables that you have in ZeroWork, so you don't lose that. Now, what is happening next? The first filtering that's happening here. So you're looking to do the first filtering based on, as I showed you before, the first simple criteria. For example, the countries has to be a good match, also certain terms that you really want to rank high for or not for, so that you have at least, so from the 1,000 jobs, you really shrink it a lot faster. So the next thing is that you go to the fetch detail work details. Now, if you have gone through all these jobs and you have, let's say, 200 jobs that are now left, let's say 200 jobs, then for these final 200 jobs, you will go over them one by one and open them in this side-by-side view. So for example, like this, and you will see, okay, you're getting a lot more information in this version. So you see like how many people they interview, but also you get some certain notifications about if they're looking for people that are in a certain country, or if, for example, if the job has already been taken, or if it's not available anymore. So these type of filtering is the second level. And that's where this actually happens here. So the second filtering is really about if it's a good match for you, if it's qualified, if there's some issues on the web or on that page. If you're not qualified, it means that it will match you with certain requirements, and then it will give you like an error on the page. If that error is there, don't even worry about it. Don't apply. If the job is already taken, if it's a private job, right? And of course, in my case, I'm not in the UK, so I cannot apply to UK only jobs. And at the same time, I cannot apply to US only jobs either. So those are the things that I want to avoid and don't have the taskbot spend time on. Now, once that is done, you tend to have a good amount of jobs that are now really a good fit for you as well. And they should at least all be catered to your core requirements, but they're still not a good match probably with your profile. And that's why in the next step, we send that data to make.com. And now in make.com, what is happening there? Make.com, again, a great tool, automation, making all these different modules talk to each other. You can create very simple automations, and I would really highly recommend it. Now, what is happening in Make.com? In Make.com, once you get and receive the data, you look at an Airtable and you check, did I already have this job in there or not? And in case you don't have the job, it's a unique job, then let's open ChatGPT. So we do an Open AI completion prompt, and we prompt Open AI to act as a helpful, intelligent assistant. And so that assistant, in a way, is your VA, will do the job of your VA. That tool will evaluate as if it's your VA and evaluate if your job that you want to apply to is a good fit for your profile. It's quite nice in a way that if you give it the details to your profile information and the job details, then of course it will be able to easier identify how it's really linked to you. And the score that you pass from ZeroWork will also be evaluated if it's really a good fit. If it's really 7 and above, or maybe should be lower, then it will also change that score. Now, what do you need to prompt, right? So just say helpful Upwork assistant, and you will review and score on a scale from 0 to 10. See, and then you also add your own profile info, and then you give some examples of things that you really don't want. And you need to be very specific here. So in this case, for example, any languages that you don't speak, if the job needs, for example, somebody that speaks Russian or Spanish, just give it a 0 score. If it needs somebody to be an VA, which in a way is not what we want to do, so again, 0. If we don't, so we don't want to work on small jobs as well, and we also don't want to do any rush jobs that have a very small budget and a crazy deadline, right? So again, I just tend to skip those, 0. Now, those are the bad jobs, and I tend to be very flexible with low budgets because I can always talk with the customer on a call. But if it can help you out to really eliminate the ones that are really a no-go, then you just save yourself a lot of time as well, a lot of upper connects and a lot of headaches. Now, the scoring happens in a structure, a JSON structure. So you need to also tell the AI, this is what I want to get as a final output. So don't make it guess, okay? So that's why you have the score and the reason. The reason will be explained later, but it will give you an explanation why it gives you that score and why it thinks it's a fitting score. So the final prompt here is that you send out all data. There's a title of the job, description, category, skills, and score. And also make sure you double check only outputs JSON content. But in this case, if the response format is already in a JSON object, then you should have no issues. What else? I've also limited to a maximum of 2K tokens. So tokens is almost, it's not really one word, but a bit more than a word. So make sure that you don't spend a lot of money on making all these, let's say, on a very complex thing here. It's a very straightforward prompt, so the output should also be very straightforward. Now, what else is important? Temperature. Temperature is that if it's a bit lower in temperature, it tends to be more like following the rules and acts as, well, it will take your words more literally than if you would have a higher temperature, because then it will be more creative and tend to think about what would you expect or what you hope to probably see in a different way. It might hallucinate a lot more then. And that's why we tend to stick with 0.5. Between 0.2 0.5 is a very soldier-like behavior that is very good as well. Now, what else? Everything else is very basic, default, so just say save and use this. The next one is parse JSON. So we want to make sure that anything that OpenAI has made, so that output in JSON is actually parsed in JSON, that we can really use it for saving in Airtable. In Airtable, we just save only the jobs that get a score higher than 7. So we have a filter here. So any score above or greater than 7 is actually passed to the next step, which is saved in Airtable. That is the simple scenario where you, in a way, have a final VA to check again if all these jobs that it has checked with ZeroWork are actually a good fit for you. Now, this last one really makes you go from 120 jobs to really 20 jobs. So the reason why is that it has its own interpretation of what is a good fit for you based on your profile. So if your profile changes, it will also change the score. So make sure you have a very full profile that you share as well. Now, how does this look like in Airtable? This is how it looks like in Airtable. So all the title of the jobs, the description of the jobs here, so they're minimized, and then the status, I will show you that later. This is the most important thing actually. Then it will get a template and copyable message, but this is from another automation I will show you as well. And it will get the link, the category, the type is by default, and I have the country set up there. Now the skill is there as well, fetched as well, and the score detail is where you have the reason, so that I know, okay, you gave it an 8 out of 10, why? And you say, and so the AI said it's focused on on-page fixes, which aligns with the employer's expertise, which is the profile that we shared. And it's also for packaging business rather than e-commerce, so that's why I didn't give a 10 but an 8, which is a bit different than what you expect. But again, all by all, it's an 8, so it's a good score. Now, what is actually is happening with the status here? So I manage and trigger all different automations using the status. Now, what is happening in the status has a few different statuses based on the state of that job. So it always starts with to review. So once it comes from make.com, it gets saved as to review. So those are the 20 or 25 jobs I need to review. And one by one, I go through them. I click on the link, I check the content, and I say, okay, I want to apply to this or not. And if not, then I'll flag them as a bad job, not interested, low budget, and anything else. And I leave it. I leave it because I can go back and review the AI to learn from these changes. So either I would have to add more specific prompting, or I go, for example, to ZeroWork and add an extra filter so that I eventually only get jobs that are always a good fit for me. Now, you will have less and less jobs that you don't like. So at the beginning, you probably get a lot of these jobs. Now, not interested, low budget. So if you want to be more specific with the budgeting as well, I don't do this because you might end up leaving behind jobs that have placeholder budgets like $5, and you will miss out on a lot of opportunities to talk with the customer to say, scope out the project and say, this is a project of this scale, should be this much. And so let's start this like this. Delivery time issues, so anything that's very fast. Normally you would not have these things, but in case that the AI didn't pick up on this, you might also mark it so you can fine tune the AI as well. Now, if everything was okay and I like it, I set it to do. The next thing I do says to do start application, right? The next thing I do is by looking at, and let me see if I can open it up for you. So this job, for example, it doesn't really say it, but I always try to look for the name of the customer. In this case, for example, it's Theodora, right? If I do, let's say, yeah, it's been, yeah, so that's the client name. So I just search on that name and it's on the client's, so the feedback from the freelancer to the client. And so that's when I really say, okay, in this case, Theodora, let me add your name here. And then this Theodora should be picked up and in this copyable message. Now, what is actually happening here in the copyable message and why I'm doing it like this is that because for me, because let's not assume that there is actually any information in template and copyable message, because at the beginning it's empty. So the reason why I add client name is that once I set it to do and start application, it's going to get picked up by another automation, and that is the automation that shared Upwork proposal preparation. Now, what is happening here? Now, in this automation, it helps us create the job proposal. So to apply to a job, you need to create a proposal, say, hey, hello, my name is Frederick, I think I can have your help, blah, blah, blah. This is my portfolio, blah, 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 and this is what I can do, blah, blah, blah. Let's talk. So that is how you normally do a proposal. It takes time to write and you need to customize it. Now, this scenario helps you create a custom proposal. Now, how does it work? Now, once it actually finds out that an Airtable, the status is to do start application, it's actually going to check if it already exists. It means that if the copyable message already exists or not. Then if not, then it will check, does the description or the country have something linked to Japan? Because we have two portfolios for Japan and non-Japan. So that's why we have the separation. If you only have one portfolio, you probably only have one flow. And so you also add a tool section here where you set up your portfolios. And the reason why you want to save your portfolio first is because you will use that depending on your Upwork profiles. So if it's a SEO or if it's like a copywriter or a web designer, if you apply with different profiles, you need different portfolios, right? So that's where you add your own portfolio, clients, URLs, and one sentence of the best results or what you did for them that you really want to highlight. Now, that sentence will be used in your final proposal creation, and that's where you also need to fill in your own Upwork profiles here. So this is all content from an Upwork profile. Now, once it goes, for example, okay, this is a job that is not in Japan, then it actually goes through Claude. Now, Claude AI is, from what I've seen so far, it's still great when it comes to copy that sounds human, well, more human than OpenAI. And the downside is that it's quite expensive, but it's very effective with the copy. You want to really stand out and really not sound like you just made something using OpenAI. And that's why I use Claude as well, with a copy that sounds at least better than just anything that's more basic. Of course, I can help you, I'm the best something ever. So humanized, that's why the prompting is very focused on giving as much information about myself so that it really can fit with a very custom prompt. So humanize this job post. So I give information about myself, what we want to do, the portfolio, the things I want to really do, and part of my portfolio again, and give them, for example, an example job post, right? And the second message I share through the assistant role what kind of proposal that I'm looking for. This is an example of the proposal that I send them, and PS sharing some case studies and SEO, whatever. And so again, I do a second example. So it's good to have a few examples so that the AI has things to work with. So the more examples you give it, the better it will give you the expected outcome. And that is really great. So a second example, and then finally I share, okay, in this case, let's now do the same thing with this job. The job title, description, client name, country, category, and the outputs of the portfolio that you saw, one of these two. And I don't include the job title because this is sometimes it did add it, sometimes it doesn't. So now I just said to make sure, don't add the job title. Now what will happen? So also temperature is quite low. Now what will happen is that output will be saved in Airtable. And in Airtable, you then get the copyable message. And that's when you see, okay, I've done these things and I've done this work as well. Like, I hope to talk to you as well. And the output is a lot more effective than just copy pasting the same message, because it caters to the job. You add your own personal touch in there, and the phrasing and sentences look more natural. If you want to sound more human, prompt it as a human. Say, for example, mimic a certain celebrity, right? A popular one is using like Alex Hermosi or like another person, or talk like The Rock, right? So that you like are a bit more funny with it. But I tend to be more dry with it, but still personal. Then once that is done, you can just copy this message and you go to the job, right? And you just do apply. You copy paste the content of this message, and you just change a few things, for example, some spacing, or if you, of course, you add your case studies and you choose your portfolio jobs, and then you just submit. So it's very straightforward. This is how you can always save a lot more time than really typing everything by hand. So that's the full flow of how everything works. Now, did I miss anything? Let me check. I showed you the preparation. Yeah. Okay, yes, I'm sorry. So the next thing that is happening is that once I've done the application, I will do applied. Then I have another automation that runs every hour, I think, and takes all the applied jobs and moves them over to a Google Sheet, and then changes the status from applied to done. Now, the Google Sheets, and let me first show you the automation that actually copies that's content update. Yeah. So what it does is it copies all the submitted Upwork jobs to the Google Sheets. And this is for tracking purposes so that I can see the KPIs and the metrics that we have. And eventually it will just give us an overview like this, right? So with the date, the links of the proposals, if it's sent, if there is a response, if we have the call booked, if call attended, if they're qualified, if closed, if the invoice is paid, and also the type of template that's being used, right? And in this case, the feedback, which includes the type of job. And there is also like a next column there where I add the name of the person in case that we know already who the person is. So this is, for me, beneficial for two reasons. You can always see your performance here and you can see how you can improve it. But also at the same time, when you have a sales call, you can easily go in here and say, okay, it was about this job and we are now doing this. The final part that I mentioned here with the statuses and copying the copyable message are things that you do manually. And the reason I do so is that I want to make sure that I'm in charge of the final say, if I really want to apply to these things or not. If not, then I just say, okay, bad job, I don't want to do it. And then I'll train the AI why it's a bad job. So the reason why is that if you do everything automatically, you'll end up spending so much connections to jobs that you don't need to apply to anymore, or actually don't want to apply to, or should not apply to. Because Upwork jobs, they come and go very fast, so you need to be fast, but at the same time, you want to make sure and double check if the AI is doing the job properly. Luckily, again, 1 hour a day, that's the amount of time I spend on this, instead of 4 hours to really go through all these jobs to try to apply to 5 to 10 jobs. Now I can apply to, let's say, like up to 15 to 20 jobs in 1 hour. So it's really a game changer. Now, if you want to do the same thing as well, just copy my ZeroWork template taskbot, and you can also copy then the automations in make.com. They're very easy to set up. Like if you have any questions on how to set them up, just let me know. But I've shared the template, so just copy paste and get started there. And if you have any questions, just let me know. I'm happy to help, but at the same time, I can also go into more details if you want to in a next video. I have some other automations that I want to go over about SEO and content. Those will be in my next videos as well. So thank you, stay safe, and have a good day.